大家好，我叫瑞秋，我高中学过中文，所以我会说一点中文。但因为我在大学没有继续学习中文，我忘记了很多。Chinese can be a very intimidating and difficult language to tackle, especially for an English speaker, but it is definitely not impossible. With that said, we're going to go over a few helpful tips for studying Chinese that I really hope you will find encouraging and inspiring. 我们来学中文吧。So the first thing you're going to want to prioritize in your journey to studying Chinese is, what is your motivation? Because your motivation is going to drive you through the rest of the day in and day out, all of the progress you're going to make and the effort that you're going to need to put in. So you're going to need a very strong reason of why you want to study and learn the Chinese language. And it will of course look different for everyone, so it is important to find something you are super passionate about and that is a reason strong enough to drive you through the times where it might be harder to stick to your study of the language, but also during the times that it's very inspiring to see progress in all of the different areas. And then the next thing, of course, is to make a schedule or plan, and this is incredibly helpful if you have a course that you are going through. There are a lot of courses available, such as Rosetta Stone, apps that have courses, but I specifically love the course called Yo-Yo Chinese, and I will talk a little bit about that right now. Of course, this video isn't sponsored by it or anything. I just really love it and have found it to be my favorite way to study and learn Chinese, and also the most effective for me personally. But again, it is very individualized, so just find a course that works for you. So the way Yo-Yo Chinese is set up is that it has different courses ranging from the beginner level all the way to intermediate and upper intermediate. And then they also have courses on Chinese characters themselves. But starting with a beginner conversational, you see it's broken down into different levels, and each level have different units, and units pertaining to some kind of topic or group of topic. And then within these units themselves, we have different lessons, and the lessons contain really helpful resources such as videos that walk you through the concepts and the language itself. And then we also have downloadable lecture notes that have the pinyin, the English, and the characters, which are incredibly useful to print out and go back and look at. You can also take the quiz to test your knowledge and go up the levels. And then for something like the Chinese character course, it's set up basically the same, except you are learning the characters. So she will go through those one by one, kind of tell you the meaning behind it, and it will also show you how to write it. And then once you get up into the upper intermediate conversational level, it's really cool because the instructor takes you through her journeys across China, and it is very much more dialogue heavy rather than directly teaching you every single thing bit by bit. Another thing is that it starts you off with a really deep foundation of learning how to pronounce the sounds using a interactive pinyin chart, which I know doesn't sound exciting to begin with, but it will definitely set you up for a much easier way down the road. And then it also has different resources such as blogs and things along that nature. More on the pinyin chart though, what I love about this, first of all, is that it has pretty much every sound, and you can just click on whichever one you are wanting to practice, and it will give you all of the different tones, so you can just click on one and it will speak it to you, and then you can practice that way. It also has kind of longer words. This just really helps you master the sounds and the pronunciation, and also is great for practicing tones, which this chart also helps with that, especially with the combination of tones. So we have first tone, second tone, third tone, and fourth tone. And this chart kind of just puts the sounds right next to each other, so you get to listen to how they are spoken together. And then there are other resources such as downloadable charts and lists and items that could be really beneficial to you. And finally, the last cool feature that I wanted to highlight in this course is that it has flashcard decks for each level. So you can click on one of those and pick a level and just go through digital flashcards as much as you want. It will speak the word to you. It will show you the characters or the pinyin. I believe there's probably a setting where you can just change it to characters only, and then it will show you the answer of what it is. And you can say if you forgot it, if it's not bad, or if it's easy, and it will, depending on your answer to that, either show it to you again soon or kind of put it in a later stack since you are already pretty confident with it. And this leads directly into one of the tips for studying Chinese, which is to practice active recall with learning flashcards whenever you make them, if you prefer to do them by hand, or you can do a mix of digital and by hand. And then either practicing them every day or putting them in a place where you can see it every day and remember to go and practice it. One thing I really like to do is watch movies in Chinese. Typically have the subtitles on, either English or the Chinese subtitles. You can do this by using a region-free player if you order one of those for pretty cheap. That way you can play Chinese movies in Mandarin in that player, because usually it has a specific region and it won't work in a normal US player. So you can buy a region-free player to play those. So I have that at home, but if you don't have that, sometimes you can find them on YouTube or on the internet or something like that. So I also watched them that way. This is a movie called The Blue Kite. And watching movies just really helps you kind of get the language immersion and also the context of the culture that's going on. And you can learn a lot of new vocabulary this way. You can do the same thing with TV shows and things like that. It's just really, really helpful to keep your mind engaged and kind of putting your mind in real life situations to help you learn the language. Another thing you can do is books. So usually children's books are a lot better to use than something that I have. Okay, so my children's books in Chinese are back at home. So the only one I have up here is pretty a lot more advanced, too advanced for me, but trying to read more simple books like children's books to start out is a lot more helpful, because you can recognize the characters and kind of get a grasp on the story since it's more simple for children. But this is the one I have with me here right now. It has a free online audio, which does help, but again, like I said, it's a little bit more advanced for me, because see how there's first of all, no pictures, so you can't really get a grasp of what the storyline is. There is English on this side, but still, that is a little bit overwhelming for someone at my level of Chinese. However, it is helpful to get very familiar with the characters, and it will also go through vocabulary lists, which can also be helpful. And what I like about this book too is it kind of gets you more familiar with the culture as well, because it has Chinese proverbs, discussion questions, things like that. So if you're at a higher level, something like this book would probably be more helpful, but children's books are really good for people like me who are beginners. So just keep that in mind. And then this is another example of typically you can get Chinese English books, so it will have both languages, which is really great. And something like this, even though it is a lot of text, since it is the Bible, it is something more familiar. So if you're familiar with a particular story or literature or something like that, and there is a Chinese English version, that might help you a lot. So here you can kind of follow along with the English and the Chinese and get at least a little bit of a grasp of it, and then you can pick out characters that you know. There are also things you can utilize like this Chinese dictionary, and it's good because of course it has tons of pictures in it, and it has the English word and the Chinese word. So if you're out and about and wanting to say something specific or learn a new vocabulary word, you can have something like this available and ready for you. Otherwise, honestly, you can just look it up on Google. I'm not saying everything's accurate, so that's why it's probably better to have a dictionary, but if you have to, just make sure you fact check it. But you can kind of see where it might be helpful for if you're cooking or doing things like that. It has vocabulary for specific words. It also has vocabulary for actions and things along that nature. So I don't know, it's a good resource to have on hand. This one specifically is the Mandarin Chinese English Bilingual Visual Dictionary, and looks like this. So there might be an updated version though, you'd have to check. Okay, this is an example of learning pretty much any chance you get. I'm just doing some random things right now, getting ready to go somewhere and put on a song. So like you can have this going with your subtitles and things like that if you find one that is in your language or specifically Chinese, and you can just be listening to it while you work. And you can also study the lyrics if you want to, and sing along. That kind of helps. But the point is just getting it to go through your mind so you become familiar with the language itself any chance you get. In addition to this kind of supplemental activities to learning Chinese, you can find other ways to have fun with learning more about the language and getting a lot more practice in, such as you can try maybe cooking, recipes, and naming the ingredients in your language. You can also play games, do things like interaction with friends, etc. And then finally, the last thing that I wanted to talk about is that there are a few apps available that could help you learn even more. One of them would be the Pleco app, which is a dictionary. So you can type in whatever word you are looking to study, and it will give you the definition of it. It will give you other words related to it or in combination of it. And what is also helpful is that it will speak it back to you, so you get to listen to it. Another app is one that is a little bit more social based, or kind of maybe like the American Pinterest, where you can look and pretty much search anything, and a bunch of different resources will come up for that topic, such as travel or cooking or reading or whatever you're interested in. But what's helpful is that it is all in Chinese, so you'll have to recognize and practice characters, and it kind of immerses you and forces you to have to do that rather than relying on English. And then finally, there's the WeChat app that you can download for your friends and begin texting them, and try to do it as much in Chinese as possible. It can still be hard to revert back to English, but that's the best way, just to try to practice, send them messages in Chinese, and ask them to correct you if, you are wrong. But however you choose to study Chinese, know to keep your motivation at the forefront and that you are capable of making tremendous progress, so don't give up. Alright, that is all for this video. I really hope that it was helpful in some way at least. Make sure you like and subscribe if you wish, and I will see you guys in the next one. 再见。